Welcome everyone. TV Toastmasters Club 9523 is in session. This is our January meeting, but it will be shown in February. I want to remind you of the importance of February. February on Sunday is going to be Valentine's Day. On Monday will be President's Day. And on Tuesday will be Mardi Gras. So 3 things very important to us right in a row. I would like to welcome our 5 guests today. They're in the studio, and we will talk to them later. But to get things rolling, I would like to bring up Carol Cormalik, who is doing the word of the day. Carol.
Thank you, Mr. President, fellow Toastmasters, and our most welcome guest in the TV viewing audience. I tried to make our words simple. People bring in these big, long words, pusillanimous, and things that you probably never use, so I tried to make it something that would educate us, and I'm not sure because I'm just learning this. Fewer or less. They're not interchangeable. You use fewer to describe countable things, and you use less to describe uncountable quantities, collective amounts, and degree. These terms are not interchangeable. So what does it say at the grocery store? How many items? Less. See, it should be fewer because those are countable. So the grocery store doesn't have it right. So I'm not sure that I would do all these right. So if you can substitute much as the modifier, then you would use less. But if you can substitute many, then you would use fewer, even if it changes the meaning. Some examples: fewer lawsuits result in less litigation. Less rain means fewer raindrops. And they have similar meanings, however, they cannot be used interchangeably. So after this is just for you to do if you want to take us home. But if you want to fill in those other 8 examples of which one it is, I don't know if we'll all agree on whether it's fewer or less. But when you come up, the challenge, the word of the day is to increase your vocabulary or to help you to use a word correctly if it's used incorrectly. And I will be paying attention to who uses fewer or less when they come up to the lectern to speak. And I will also be counting the verbal crutches, all those killer filler words, the ums, the us, the you knows, the. And I will also be counting citing good examples of grammar if I pick them up, or bad examples of grammar. And I will give my report later on. Thank you, Mr. Toastmaster. Are you?
I'm the Toastmaster.
You're Toastmaster and the President.
Thank you, Carol. The Toastmaster and the President. And as a Toastmaster, you're always trying to make fewer ahs, right? Trying to say fewer ahs. The next part of the meeting is impromptu speaking, and everybody enjoys this, I know, getting up here and on a spur of the moment answering a question. And today's table topic master is Rick Barron. Rick.
Thank you, Rick. Have you ever been in a presentation at work, totally rehearsed, you knew everything, and got one of those zinger questions from the audience, and sat there and went, ooh, now what? Or maybe a spouse or someone else asked you a question that you just weren't ready for. Well, that's what Tabletopics allows us to do. It allows us to prepare to be able to answer those questions on the fly. I've got 3 questions that I'm going to pose to people in our studio audience who don't know they're going to get picked on today. The first question: Aldous Huxley, the author of A Brave New World, wrote, "There's only one corner of the universe that you can be certain of improving, and that is your own self." Darren Henderson, what are you doing to improve yourself in 2010?
Mr. Toastmaster, fellow Toastmasters, one of the first things I'm going to do is to use fewer and less properly. Just learned that 5 minutes ago. There are lots of things I plan to do this year to make myself better. The resolution that we all have each year, of course, is to make ourselves healthier. So my goal is to, 1, I try to work out on at least once a week. I need to improve that, obviously. But the thing I really fall down on is my diet. My diet's horrible. I love sugar, I love sodas, and I'm just a sugar fiend. So one thing I definitely need to do is less sugar, less red meat, because as I've hit 40 now, you really start to think about trying to make it another 40 years. Of course, that'd be my goal, at least. So I know I need to have a better diet, better health habits. At home, of course, I've got a 3-year-old at home, so my goal is always to spend as much time as I can with him. It's funny, no matter what you do when you go through life, the times you remember are the times you spend with your family, your friends, and people you love. So it's really important to make the most of those times. So one thing I want to do is to make certain that I don't waste any opportunities in that way. And the other thing, of course, is just trying to develop yourself better as a person. You know, Toastmasters is a great opportunity for that. I think all of us in this room would love to be able to come up here and give fantastic speeches. And of course, my goal is to give the perfect speech at some point, to come up here with no notes, just roll off a 5 to 7 minute speech and have people floored. So of course, I'm still working on that. Might not hit it this year, but maybe in 5 years I'll reach that goal. Mr. Toastmaster?
Thank you, Barron. The second topic today comes from Ralph Waldo Emerson. He says, "What lies behind you and what lies before you are tiny matters compared to what lies within you." Gordon, Kelly, what dreams of yours are still within you that you have yet to realize?
I really have to ask Carol a question. Do I have less money or fewer dollars? I'm not sure how that one works, Carol.
I think you're out of both.
The dreams that I have that I'm still facing is one, a lot of people probably don't know, but I was laid off back on July 31st. So one of my dreams is to secure employment again. Presently, I am working at the same company that I got laid off from, which is interesting, because no sooner than I was laid off and I started looking for a job and went through right management to get the proper resume set up, then they called up and said, "Hey, you know, I think we need to bring you back in." So I'm a contract person with the company, so I'm still looking for employment. But one of the things I found is that when you're unemployed, if you're not a specialist in something, it's very different to try to find work. And I've always been a kind of a jack of all trades. I fill in the gaps and the slots and those sorts of things. So I've kind of resolved myself to the fact that I need to maybe go back and get a master's degree. Actually, I did have a teaching opportunity, which is still out there pending. But I thought, hey, I'll go back to maybe UK and get a master's degree, even at I'm 57 years old. So I thought, I'm older, but I always wanted to go to UK anyway. So was thinking of that. And there's some other things. I've had some companies on the side that have offered me to take positions as a rep for them. So there's dreams that I have out there, but today my main goal is to find or to become securely employed. And then once that happens, I will address the dreams that I had. That of course you have to have money to follow through with your dreams. One of the dreams I've had that even my sons, I have two sons in their 30s that I've been challenging them with, is to walk the Appalachian Trail. I don't know if you guys are familiar with the Appalachian Trail. That's a 6-month walk, and that's still, if I end up to be permanently unemployed, I plan on walking the Appalachian Trail. Mr. Toastmaster.
Thank you, Gordon. Science and psychology agree on one thing, and that is our self-image is really what drives who we are and what we do. Phil, Rigg, can you tell me some advice that you would give someone who is interested in working on their self-image?
Thank you, Mr. Toastmaster. Self-image, what is that? To ourselves, it's not what appears to be to other people. Your self-image, you may think, like for instance myself, I believe I'm a handsome man. But that is always in the eye of the beholder, and that may be just the mirror. I need to be less vain, I think, in some instances. But when you speak of science and technology, I do have a little bit of a science background, although I'm not applying that to what I do as a living. As a general contractor, I don't use microbiology, but in my own self-esteem, I remember those days, and I try to approach things in a scientific way. When you look at yourself introspectively, I try to imagine fewer grammatical errors, if I even pronounce grammatical correctly. But the technology base of today is amazing. You know, we've seen this horrible tragedy in Haiti, and we have Twitter and all these social networking events where people can get the news out of the horrific images that we're seeing. Yet we don't have the technology to land planes and get the material and the aid that people need right as soon as they need it. So I believe that of self-image and self-worth, let's think of some of the people around us, not only in Haiti, but around us every day, that could use some help, and try in this hard times to give a helping hand when we can. Thank you.
Thank you, Phil. Well, we have 3 fabulous speakers for you today, and because of that, I have fewer topics than I really had planned. So I'll turn it back over to our Toastmaster, Rick Davis.
Thank you, Rick. After the break, Paul Wessels will give his speech, and we'll be right back.
Thank you very much. And now for our next speaker, Stanley Glitchner.
Nomine Patri et Filii Spiritui Sancti.
Speaking in public doesn't have to be a death sentence. At Toastmasters, we can help you overcome your fears.
Welcome back. The first speaker for today is Paul Wessels, and his speech is number 8 from the basic manual, Tiger Woods. Paul?
Thank you, Mr. Toastmaster. No, I'm not going to talk about the personal life of Tiger Woods. That's my title. I'm going to use Tiger Woods to help me explain this chart back behind me. This is a chart of human emotions, and this is my personal interpretation of this chart. I saw it, I got a couple ideas out of it, and I want to share those ideas with you. See the big word here, zone. Athletes, a lot of times they say, oh boy, I was in a zone. Tiger Woods will say, I was in a zone today. And what that means, we've heard this before, a zone basically means that you're doing everything right. He's hitting the ball down the middle of the fairway, he's putting the ball, everything's going in, everything feels right. Athletes, a lot of times tend to say, I'm in a zone because they're not themselves. And what I want to do is explain this chart. I want to explain how you get into the zone and why you can't stay in this thing called the zone. So I want to explain it by first showing you this. Marble. If I tilt the bowl, the marble moves away from the center. If I put the bowl back, the marble moves back to the middle. I want you to picture this is looking down into the marble, or into the bowl. If I put the marble on here, it will finally wind up in the center of the point here. I'll call that our set point. That's where we want to stay, and I'll bring the subconscious into this a little bit. That's where our subconscious wants to keep us. So, for example, when I'm sitting down in that seat, I feel normal. My bowl, my marble is right in the middle. But when I come up here, my bowl gets tilted. I don't feel normal. Where does my bowl get tilted? Where does the marble move to? It depends on what I'm doing. Up here, my skill set isn't as high. It's low compared to the challenge. So my marble rolled into the anxiety section. Okay, so now I feel anxious. When I'm done, I'll sit back down in that chair, I'll tilt my bowl back, and the marble will roll back to the center. My psyche, I'll call it, wants to keep that marble right in the middle. It'll do anything to keep that marble right in the middle. When Tiger Woods gets in a zone, his marble moves over here. He stays in the zone for a while. When he's done, he tilts his bowl back, and the marble does not roll back to the middle. Where does the marble roll? In my opinion, the marble rolls right about here. I'm kind of exaggerating things, and that's because I want to bring the concept of moving set point into this. What happens is your psychology is so desperate to get that set point underneath the marble that if you're out of balance for a long period of time, it actually starts moving the set point toward the marble. But here's what happens. Now Tiger Woods feels normal here. He doesn't feel like he's in the zone anymore. So it takes Tiger Woods more skill and more challenge to actually feel like he's in the zone. He feels normal here. This moving set point concept, and again, this is my personal interpretation, and I'm showing my engineer here a little bit, but this moving set point concept can work anywhere. The subconscious does not care where the marble goes or who did it. It just cares, it wants to get that set point back to the marble. For example, I go on vacation. I tilt my bowl, the marble rolls down to the relaxation zone. If I stay on vacation too long, you know, my subconscious is telling me, move your marble back, get the marble back into the center. It doesn't wait for me. It starts moving the set point toward the marble. So if I stay on vacation too long, that beach that used to relax me, that feeling of relaxation starts dissipating, and that's because the set point, my normality point, is coming toward the marble. So if I stay there too long, I actually feel normal by the beach. I will not feel relaxed anymore. So I want to bring this moving set point. I want you to remember a couple things about this chart. Your bowl's always being tilted. You're either tilting it yourself or the environment is tilting your bowl. So humans tend to tilt their bowl so the marble rolls into control and relaxation. Something at work may upset you. It may tilt your bowl. So the marble rolls over into anxiety or worry. So there's two things I want you to remember. I want you to remember effort, and I want you to remember moving set point. If you don't put any effort into something, your skills will get lower. And because of the moving set point, you're actually accepting less challenge just to feel normal. So your set point's moving down toward the low, low range here. If you enable somebody else, you're taking their effort away from them. Because you're taking your effort away from them, their skills atrophy. And if you keep enabling somebody else, in order for them just to feel normal because of the moving set point, they take on less challenge. And by the way, if you're a government, you want to control people, what you do is you keep giving them stuff. Because if you keep giving them stuff, you take their effort away. And if you take their effort away, their skills atrophy. And if their skills atrophy because of the moving set point, they take on less challenge, so you can control them better. But you can improve yourself just by being normal and living. You improve your skills. So look, you're improving your skills just by being alive. But in my interpretation, people do it in the control zone. They actually improve their skills. They take on more challenge, but they never pop into the zone. They always stay in the comfort zone because society, I'm being real deep here, society gives us a lot of buffer. So we never really have to leave the control zone to improve ourselves. Athletes, on the other hand, it's a game. They're very highly skilled, and we make the game very challenging on purpose. So they tend to pop into the zone more often than us. So if you're like me, and you, because of that moving set point, and you're in a position where your skills are really low, and your challenge is really high, all you got to do is keep doing it. I'm in the anxiety section now, but my set point moves. So if I keep coming from that seat, keep walking up here, what's going to happen is that anxiety is going to slowly dissipate because my set point, my normality point, is going to keep moving toward where I'm at. So eventually, I will feel more and more normal when I walk up here. So the dirty little secret about this chart is, I mean, you can probably figure it out, is you can tilt your bowl anywhere you want. You can make the marble move anywhere you want. You can actually make your set point move anywhere you want. It's just you have to put up with the screaming from the subconscious, and you have to put up with the new position of the set point, whether or not that set point is good or bad. So I want you to remember a couple things here. I want you to remember moving set point, effort, and you're in control. Mr. Toastmaster.
Thank you, Paul. The moral of the story is don't lose your marbles, right? You'll end up with fewer marbles or less sanity. After the break, Don Wess will come up here and give his speech, and we'll be right back.
I'd like to begin tonight with a little joke. This guy, he's a farmer, and he says, "Hey, hello, sorry." But seriously, folks.
Speaking in public is no joke.
Farmer says, a doctor says, chicken says.
For help, call Toastmasters, the public speaking support group.
The chicken.
Welcome back. Our next speaker will be speaking from the basic manual, speech number 7, and the title of his speech is Be Happy, Don Wess. Don?
Hello, studio audience and viewing audience. It's good to be with you. And we often stand on the shoulders of those who come before us, or we fall off of the shoulders of those that come before us, or maybe even jump off of the shoulders of those that come before us. There's a person, his name is William Glasser. He has a theory of how to be happy. It tells you how to be happy. And he has many disciples, and I'm one of them, I suppose. And my interpretation of what he says may be different from what he actually said, but here goes. Be happy. How do we be happy? How can we be happy? We can be happy, first of all, by providing for our survival needs. So if we need food, we make choices to get food. If we need clothes, we make some choices so that we can get clothes. If we need some shelter, we make some choices so that we can get shelter, a house or whatever we need for shelter. That's one of our basic needs, and it's called a need for survival, and it involves many choices. We also have a need for freedom. Freedom of speech, freedom of movement, freedom of what? You can think of many different freedoms or many different choices that we can make that involve our freedom. That's one of our basic needs, that everybody has these needs. And we also have a need for control. So far we've got survival, freedom, and control. Now control means that we have some autonomy, that we have an ability to do things that are industrious, have an ability to accomplish things. When we were little kids or just a baby, we start on the floor by crawling. We're crawling on the floor and we see people walking and we get perhaps a notion that we can do that too. So we begin to move up and try holding onto the chair and trying to walk. And eventually we learn that if we lean forward a little bit and put one leg in front of another, we can walk. That is a feeling of accomplishment, of autonomy. And we repeat those feelings as we go through our life. Another need that we have is a need for relationships, a need to have friends. And on all of these needs, we all are born with a certain degree. Some are at 1. We don't have very much need for relationships. Those are the hermits among us. Some are at a 5. They need to be with people all the time. They need relationships. They can't live without a bunch of people around them. So these are all gradated needs that we have and that we're actually born with them. They're part of our inheritance. We can't change them. So if we have a very high need for relationships, that's always going to be there. We have to keep trying to reach fulfillment of that need by the choices that we make. The final need that we have is for fun. Everybody needs to have fun, to laugh, to enjoy life, to have recreation, to take vacations, just to be ourselves and to be relaxed and have fun, however we might make the choices to achieve that goal of ours. So if we have real high needs in all of these five, we have a lot of effort and choices to make in order to fulfill those needs and to be truly happy. If our needs are lower, if we're a 3 or a 2, we still need to make choices to fulfill those needs, to make them a reality in us, to develop the potential and make it actual, but we don't have to work as hard. So we have fewer needs and some have more needs. And that is part of our life. If we can fulfill our needs by making good choices in our life, we will be that much more happy and our life will be much more fulfilling. So again, this is one theory that has been handed down from one person to another, and you can all develop that theory within your own lives and determine what kind of choices you want to make in order to fulfill the needs according to the degree of strength these needs have in your life. So in conclusion, you can try it. It probably won't work, but you can try it. And we hope that we can all be happy as we possibly can in this life. Thank you. Thank you for listening.
Thank you, Don. After the break, Steve Ahrenholz will speak, and we'll be right back.
All the education in the world won't help you get ahead in life if you can't express your ideas effectively. Every day, competition for advancement gets tougher and tougher. You need an edge. A Toastmasters club can give you that edge. A low-cost learning experience for men and women. Toastmasters gives you the confidence to express your ideas to anyone. Get the Toastmasters edge.
Welcome back. Our next speaker, also speaking from the basic manual, project number 7, is Steve Ahrenholz, and the title of his speech is Love Lives On. Steve Ahrenholz.
There are things that we don't want to happen, but have to accept. Things we don't want to know, but have to learn. And people we can't live without, but have to let go. Author unknown. Mr. Toastmaster, fellow Toastmasters, and our honored guests. Grief is something that we will all experience if we haven't already. Did you realize that grieving can occur during positive events, such as children leaving home, taking a new job, moving into a new house, moving to another part of the country? But most of us think of grief in the traditional sense with sadness, usually associated with the death of someone. Margaret Mead said, "When a person is born, we rejoice. When they marry, we jubilate. And when they die, we try to pretend that nothing has happened." Grieving varies with culture, and one of the things that happens is we never return to our pre-grief state. The lantern ceremony is an ancient tradition celebrated in many Asian countries, because grief is also processed differently in different cultures. Some of the Asian countries where the lantern ceremony is celebrated include China, Thailand, and Asia. The Lantern Festival is usually held on a Buddhist holiday at the time of a full moon. Since the world's first atomic bombings in Japan, in Hiroshima on August 6, 1945, and then 3 short days later on August 9th in Nagasaki, the lantern ceremony has taken on additional meaning for the Japanese Buddhists. They believe that the souls of their ancestors visit them every year. So they put out lanterns to guide the spirits, and when their visit is over, they launch them on the water to guide their path back to heaven. Teresa, my wife, and I participated in a lantern ceremony this past September in Mount Moriah Cemetery out here in Union Township. This was the second ceremony that they had of this type on the pond located at the east edge of the cemetery. We had intended to attend the first one in 2008. Unfortunately, that was the weekend that my father had passed away and we were up in Wisconsin. We each decorated the rice paper that went into our lantern and then carefully assembled our lantern, which consisted of a small square of plywood with 4 dowels that went up the sides. You attach the rice paper to the dowels, and then there's a small tea candle that floats or that is located inside the lantern. We decided that we wouldn't launch our lanterns until after sunset. So we waited around and enjoyed the evening, and as sunset came, we wanted to have the opportunity to look at the lanterns as they floated out on the water. So that was when we launched our lantern. We could see it illuminated from the tea light inside, as well as the reflection of the lanterns off of the water's surface. The crowd was dissipating, and as darkness descended, we decided that it was time to go and began our walk on the lane out of the cemetery to where we left our car across the street in the church parking lot. This cemetery doesn't have any lights in it, so it was becoming quite dark. And as we walked along the lane, we had to step off the pavement to allow a car to pass. When we did this, and we turned as the car was going by, we happened to notice that there was an elderly woman walking very closely behind us. Neither one of us had heard her, and she hadn't said anything to us either. Thinking that she was probably another attendee walking out to her car, we turned and resumed our walk out of the cemetery. Now, up ahead, there is a 90-degree turn in the lane to get out of the cemetery to the main road. When we got to the turn, and as we made that turn to head out of the cemetery, we noticed the woman was no longer behind us. We really had no idea where she went. We reached the road to cross over to pick up our car, and our car was sitting there, the only one in the parking lot, underneath a street light. When we got to our car, I started the engine, we were getting ready to back out, and the song, "I Can See Clearly Now, The Rain Is Gone" by Johnny Nash was playing on the radio. This song was one of my mother's favorite, and we had used it in the soundtrack for the DVD photo montage that was displayed at the visitation for her funeral in 2007. We don't know who the woman was behind us or where she went, but I think Mom came to check up on us and see how we were doing. The grief care consultant that we worked with for both my mother and my father's funerals reminded us that the love we give to and receive from those who die lives on. I think we experienced it that early fall evening. Robert Fulghum stated, "I believe that imagination is stronger than knowledge, myth is more potent than history, dreams are more powerful than facts, Hope always triumphs over experience. Laughter is the cure for grief. Love is stronger than death. I may be a scientist in my day-to-day life, but there are some things that I can't and don't want to explain. Mr. Toastmaster?
Thank you, Steve. Very nice. Coming up after the break, the evaluation portion of the meeting, and we'll be right back.
What future do you envision for yourself? What dreams do you have? If you want your dreams to come true, you must have confidence in yourself and your abilities. A Toastmasters Club can help you build that confidence. A low-cost learning experience for men and women. Toastmasters shows you how to express yourself clearly and effectively. Make your dreams a reality. Join a Toastmasters Club.
Welcome back. The evaluation portion of the meeting begins with Gordon Kelly, who will evaluate Paul Wessels' speech. Gordon?
Thank you, Mr. Evaluator. As an evaluator for Paul Wessels' speech, I will be evaluating his speech, which is get comfortable with visual aids, so it will all be directed toward the visual aids. At least most of it will. And I'll basically read you my notes on each portion of the evaluation, because it was kind of hard to remember everything that was going on. But on the visual aids, I thought they were very appropriate, with the exception of the letter width, which we spoke about for the camera purposes, so that the people out in the TV land can see more clearly. The aids definitely helped us understand your point, at least, and this is all coming, of course, from my perspective. Visual aids may not have been clearly visible, again, to the TV audience. I felt you understood and used the aids with confidence, and you seemed very comfortable with them, so I think you really studied what you had to do there. Your purpose was clear, and I believe should help us understand our emotions better. At least it did me. It gave me a little bit better perspective on what we actually feel when we come up here to the lectern. Your body language, I felt your body language enhanced your speech, for the reason that I don't think it distracted from the actual aid that was up here. Your word choice, again, you used words such as set point, effort, you're in control, those sorts of things. I thought the word choices were very good. And I really thought the speech was well researched. So overall, I thought it was a great speech. Thank you, Mr. Evaluator.
Thank you, Gordon. Our next evaluator is Jerome Manigan, and he is evaluating Don Wess's speech. Jerome?
Thank you, Mr. Toastmaster. Don and my fellow Toastmasters and the home audience. Don, your topic was be happy, and your objective was to research a topic. Your presentation for a moment or two reminded me of an abbreviated Psych 101 course. You talked to us about the common human needs, and that's a good thing for us to know that all of us share common human needs. But I'm not so sure that it got to the heart of your task. According to the directions, you are to collect information from numerous sources and carefully support points with specific facts, examples, and illustrations, rather than with just your own opinions. Now, this is what I heard, this is what I saw. How well did the speaker's topic apply to the audience? I think that the topic itself was applicable to this audience and audiences most everywhere, because we all certainly desire happiness. Was the topic well researched? And I have on here a question mark. And next to that I have cite sources, because your directions require you to make use of both print and electronic sources to support your positions. And I'm not so sure that that happened. If I had heard you say, according to Glasser, according to Benet, according to Marie Montessori, according to Pablo, blah, 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 then I would say, yes, you did, in fact, research and cite a number of sources. Was the support material appropriate for the point made? Question mark. Did the speaker vary the types of support material? I didn't put anything here. How clear was the speaker's purpose? Well, you certainly wanted us to know about the common human needs, and you certainly wanted us to know that most of us desire happiness, but beyond that, I'm not so sure. Was the speech effectively organized? The speech that I heard was, in fact, organized. The speech that I heard may or may not have been the speech that the topic called for. Did the speaker take advantage of body language and vocal variety? I think that you did. At one point you got up off of the floor, you used a chair to support yourself to demonstrate a child's movement from a crawler to a toddler to a walker. What could the speaker have done differently to improve the speech? Cite sources. What did you like about the speech? That it briefly reminded this old man of many years ago sitting in a Psych 101 class. Thank you very much.
Our next evaluator is Darren Henderson, and he'll be evaluating Steve Ahrenholz's speech. Darren?
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. General Evaluator, fellow Toastmasters, and especially Steve. Steve, it's obvious this was a very heartfelt topic for you, and I could tell from when you first came up to the lectern that it was going to be a very somber topic. And it probably wasn't intentional on your part, but just the way you felt about the topic. It kind of came pouring out just in the way you talked, the way you looked, and the way you approached the speech. So I think it really set the tone for what your speech is going to be about. The opening, like I said, was very somber. I didn't know, and the way you approach this, and a lot of this, and this speech is about apply your skills, and a lot of it's about organization, but the way you approached it to me was kind of like you started out with the window and you opened it very slowly as it went on, because we knew it was a somber topic, but we didn't really know exactly where you're going to go. Sometimes people come up here in the opening, they tell you exactly where they're going to go, and then you follow them through. With your speech, you didn't really do that. You just let us know generally what you're going to be talking about, but then you slowly opened it up. The body, I thought, you started out telling us about the Lantern Festival, about the history of it, and you explained what it was about, because obviously most of us wouldn't have known that, but then it became more personal. You talked about the Lantern Festival you and your wife participated in, and you talked about, you didn't even tell us really about, exactly who your lantern was specifically made for. But then the speech really got personal and really got very, very interesting when you talked about walking through the cemetery, and the wording you used was you really painted a really good picture, because I think all of us were transported to a dark cemetery walking along the side of a road, and you kind of hear something, look back, you see someone behind you, but you can't really see exactly who it is. So you really painted a great picture, and you really took us back to that cemetery. And then once again, the closing was, that lantern had been made for your mother, and that there's a woman behind you, and then you turned on the radio, and there, lo and behold, the song that you chose for your mother at her funeral, and it really kind of closed the entire speech. So I thought it was an excellent speech, and this speech is about organization. I thought the way you organized it was very good. The only suggestion I have, and really I'm not even sure if it's appropriate, would be to possibly have an example of a lantern or a picture of a lantern. But once again, I'm not really sure if that's an appropriate thing to do for the type of speech you gave. I actually don't have that many, which was kind of strange for me. Normally I have at least one thing I can say we could have done better, but I really don't have much to say on that topic. But I thought it was a great speech, obviously very personal, and I think everyone in this room hung on every word you said. And one really great quote you gave was, I thought, what was it? Love we give to and receive from those who die lives on. I thought that was a great thought that we can all take away from this speech. Mr. General Evaluator.
Thank you, Darren. Great evaluation. Now, the meanest role in Toastmasters, if you're not familiar with Toastmasters, we have a awe-counter grammarian who is picky. She's the school teacher. She's there to help us improve, help us get better, and stop using ahs and verbal crutches. Carol Kormelink is our awe-counter grammarian today. Carol?
Thank you, Mr. Toastmaster, fellow Toastmasters. Actually, we had fewer vocal pauses in the beginning of the meeting than we did after the speeches began. With Steve's speech, I heard no ums and ahs. I only heard one so, which may have been an appropriate connection, but I thought maybe it wasn't quite. And only one double clutch, we didn't. And the interesting thing, you and Paul both used a word that I had considered using as our word of the day and then thought, no, I'm not going to use that. Dissipate. You both used dissipating. And I thought, maybe I should have used that one. Then it would have been easy. Everyone, I don't have anything written for you, Steve, on fewer or less or more. But everyone else who was up here used it once, twice, 2, 3, 4 times. Probably the person who used it the most was Rick Davis in fewer. Rick normally doesn't have many uhs. He only had several. We do need to learn to enunciate clearer. I slur my words sometimes. Sometimes I say get instead of get and just instead of just. And I heard a few of those today. So watch our enunciation. One of the things with Dawn, I heard you say much more happy, and I didn't know if it would be simpler just to say happier. Maybe much more was more definitive, I don't know. But I thought we did a good job today with our clutches, and if you want to know how many vocal pauses you had, you can come to me afterwards and I'll tell you precisely if you had 15, 20, 25, 30, how many double clutches, and with that, I will return it to Mr. General Evaluator.
Thank you, Carol. You weren't nearly as mean as normal. I don't know you must be feeling nice today. Because we have to start, end, and maintain a certain amount of time in Toastmasters, we all have busy schedules, and we only have a certain amount of time to produce the TV show. We have a timer, and Mary Arms is our timer today. Come up and give us a timer report.
Hello, everyone. Okay, on the Tabletopics, Darren, you did 1 minute and 31 seconds, sorry about that. Gordon Kelly, 2 minutes and 8 seconds, and Phil Riggs, 1 minute and 52. In the speakers, Steve, you did 7 minutes and 7 seconds. Paul, you did 6 minutes and 57 seconds. And Dawn, 6 minutes and 5 seconds. On the Evaluator, Gordon, you did 1 minute and 39 seconds. Jerome, 3:16. And Darren, 2 minutes and 46 seconds. And Carol, you did 1 minute and 7 seconds. And thank you very much, Mr.
General Evaluator. I'm the General Evaluator right here, and then I'm going to step over here. I'm going to go back to being the Toastmaster. And I want to invite our 5 guests today to come up and tell us what they thought about the meeting and what they saw. So, Mike Rigg, would you come up and tell us Yeah. Just say hi to everybody.
Well, I'm Mike Rigg. I came to the open house this past Thursday out of curiosity. For a long time, I've known about Toastmasters. I was surprised talking to different people how many hadn't heard of Toastmasters till fairly recently or shortly before they joined. And in the past, I was thinking, why would anybody join an organization to be tortured? Seeing the people get up, hearing the presentations, the information at the open house, find out is learning how to do public speaking well, to communicate is important. But the self-confidence comes with that. is a plus, and the self-assurance. And depending on what your vocation is, it can help you in your job too. What I normally do, I'm a repair person. I'm currently unemployed, but I can see where it could even help me because I have to deal with customers. So I thank you for this opportunity to sit in and see what really goes on instead of just the edited version I see on TV once in a while. Thank you.
Thank you, Mike. Speaking of the open house that we had last Thursday, our speaker was Mike Davis. Mike, would you come up here and say a few words about what you saw today, looking from behind the camera?
Raise your hand if you've ever given an icebreaker. Yeah. What I experienced today behind that camera was much like an icebreaker because I have Nikki in my ear. I'm trying to focus on this and trying to listen to the speaker. That was like the first time I ever spoke. I was like nervous back there. It's a great experience, though. This club offers an opportunity that no other club does, and that's to see, be able to be on TV and learn what goes on behind the scenes. And I know as a speaker now, I am a real pain in the behind when I speak in this club because the cameras have to do this on me, and I don't think I'll ever do that to you again. Mr. General Evaluator, Toastmaster.
Thank you, Mike. Our newest member who joined this morning is Alice Danforth. Alice, would you like to come up and tell us what you saw today?
Thank you. First off, I want to thank you for letting me join. I feel it's a pleasure. I didn't think that it would be like this. I thought it was going to be a solicitation when I came on Thursday, and I love to talk. I've got a website. I'm planning on doing YouTube. I know I have a lot of growing to do, and I'm hoping that I can use what I'm doing in my business to share with others. And I know from meeting all of you and the happy faces and the positive energy that I feel here that you're going to help me out a lot. Thank you.
Thank you. Another guest was Ken Bernier. Ken, would you like to come up and say a few words?
Thank you. I received an invitation through email from Phil Rigg, and I found this to be very, very enlightening. I too am working on my business, and of course I'm from a generation where all of the social networking and all the technology has come since I've really been heavily engaged in the business world. I was with General Electric for 30 years and have left, and I'm working on a number of exciting projects. And it's also going to require some YouTube type communication, training videos, those kinds of things. So I found this really, really fascinating. Spent some time in the technical booth, just getting a look around there. And I also found the speeches to be really entertaining and informative, and appreciate very much the format and everything that I can learn here. Thanks very much.
Really, Bill Matthews. Bill, it's a little logistic problem getting him up here, but all right. With that, I think it's about time to pull the plug on the festivities today. So this is TV Toastmasters, and we will adjourn.